inyuma gatoya naje hano mu Rwanda. Abanyarwanda barampaye inka. Mbone nte Paul yampayire ngahita umunkoroge. Kinyarwanda cyarananiye. Mfite umwana wanjye, umukobwa wanjye aje hano anyambe ejo nyambe Kinyarwanda mushyo. Ejo bagambire Kinyarwanda bareke kunga yabakanyoze wo mwisho. Bagambire diremo abagambire.
Mugira amahoro. Mwirireho mwese. None mudatekereza yuko mu Uganda hatarimo abantu bavuga ururimi rw'Urwanda. Twese turi mamwe, mwakoze cyane.
Tuwale mukuzara kutomba. Omwana yantambire ya yesho na mesho ya ngambire Kinyarwanda. Your Excellency, President Paul Kagame, yes, and the First Lady, and all the dignitaries who are here. Inyuma gatoya naje hano mu Rwanda. Abanyarwanda barampaye inka. Kunashyikireyo entana gikubya numana ngo barahirire karo nyankore ko rwabaremo ngi barahirire ukurahira n'umukumanya ukurahirende rutunga rumunkorogi kanyubere iki cya Paul. Inka ya kanyubere muragizi. Tumukujimanya numbaye. Ya kanyubere neina akabara hamukira. Weko wenda akabara hamukira igihe bageta kanyubere. Kandi shenkorogi muzumanya enkorogi niki tumukuzumanya enkorogi mwana umuntu twara kuba inente ezanyineka dere yashobora mu ezabana nabazeta eshori dere zasigaramuka nibazete nkorogi. Mbone nte Paul yampayire ngahita umunkorogi. Kinyarwanda cyarananiye. Mfite umwana wanjye, umukobwa wanjye aje hano anyambe ejo nyambe Kinyarwanda mushyo. ejo bagambira Kinyarwanda bareke kunga yabakanyoze mu mwisho bagambire giremo abagambire
mugira amahoro mwirireho mwese none mudatekereza yuko mu Uganda hatarimo abantu bavuga ururimi rw'urwanyu twese turi mamwe mwakoze cyane
tuwale mukuzana kutomba omwana yantambire yanyesho na omesho yangambire Kinyarwanda. Your Excellency, I was asked to give a keynote address on this occasion. First of all, I want to congratulate the people of Rwanda and the members of the RPF on this 25th anniversary of the founding of the RPF. Congratulations. I congratulate you because you turned a very hopeless situation into a situation of hope. Whenever I would come here, and I started coming here, of course Rwanda is very close to Uganda. In the colonial times, and even before, our people were interacting. However, I personally never had time to come here, except in 1985, when we were fighting for our freedom in Uganda, and we had captured the area of Kabale. That's when I came here for the first time. That's when I came here for the first time. And when I came into government, I came here a bit more. And the leaders of Rwanda at that time were telling me that the Banyarwanda are too many, they can't fit in Rwanda, some must be taken to Gabon, some must be taken to I don't know where. But I'm now very glad to hear a totally different tune from Kigali. That, and that's what I used to tell the late Habyarimana. I would say, but you say the Banyarwanda are too many, and they cannot fit in Rwanda. But there is a country called Holland. Holland is about the same size as Rwanda in land area. But it has got a population of 16 million people. They are more than the Rwanda of today in terms of population. Of course, at that time, the Rwanda population was less. It was like 7 million. So my question was, how do the Dutch fit in Holland? And you say that the Banyarwanda cannot fit in Rwanda. What is the problem? So I'm glad the message now is different, that all the Banyarwanda can fit in Rwanda. That's what you are telling us. A few months ago, we had an anniversary in Uganda. And this was the 50th anniversary of our independence. Therefore, when they asked me to give a keynote address this evening, I thought I should draw from the written speech which I gave that time on our occasion, because some of the ideas may be of interest to the audience here. In that speech, I first of all dismissed the idea that the people of Africa are not connected, because that's what the reactionaries tell you. They tell you that Africa is divided in tribes, and these tribes have no connection with each other. They can't live together. This is something I long ago rejected. In fact, the whole of Africa is just divided into 4 groups. The whole of Africa from north to the south is just divided into 4 groups. If you follow language, Africa is divided into 4 linguistic groups. The first group are what we call the Niger-Congo group of languages. These are the languages spoken all the way from Nigeria through here up to South Africa. These include the Bantu dialects and also what they call the Kwa group of languages in West Africa. These are the languages of like the Igbo, the Yoruba, and so on. This is one group, Niger-Congo group of languages. The second group are what we call the Nilo-Saharan group of languages. These are the languages of northern Uganda, like the Luo, parts of Kenya, South Sudan, southern Ethiopia, like the Cushitic languages of the Somalis and all that, and some parts of Chad and so on. The third group are what they call the Afro-Asiatic group of languages. This is Arabic, Amharic, and Tigrinya. And then the fourth group is the smaller group in South Africa called the Khoisan. The Khoisan, what they call Bushmen in South Africa. These are the 4 groups in Africa. So when you are told that you are very different, Africa is full of tribes, yes, they are tribes, but these tribes are linked. When I called when His Excellency Paul Kagame called for me, the young girl who was playing the I don't think the English have it. This is called Enanga. This is an instrument, a musical instrument which is throughout the whole of the Great Lakes region. So my interest in the Nanga, this Nanga here, was that it had more emilia. Emilia are those strings. And when His Excellency President Kagame invited the girl, I discovered that it had 12 media, while the ones in Uganda have got 8-6. So I invited this group here to bring technical assistance to Uganda. In the issue of Rwanda. But the point is that these groups of Africa are linked linguistically. There are 4 of them, just four groups. So when you are told that you are so many, you are so different, Africa is, this is just hallucinations. It's not on the ground. This Kinyarwanda, I can hear almost 50% of this Kinyarwanda, Kirundi, without translation. We used to live near with the Kinyarwanda called Rwakafizi. She would curse his daughter called Kamere. And then I would say, but what is Omheto? Now Omheto is what they call Obuta in Runyankore. And the Okweta is to build. So although we use a different word, Obuta, but Omheto also makes sense because it is to build it in order to make the so the first point I made in that what I called the Jubilee lecture in Uganda was that I rejected the idea that the African people are so divided that they have no linkages. This one is rubbish, it has no truth in it. The groups are 4 linguistic groups, there are 4 in the whole of Africa. So this is the first, but the only problem we had was that these groups were not governed together. We had these small kingdoms. Kingdom of Rwanda, Kingdom of Burundi, Kingdom of Ankole, Kingdom of Buganda, and so on. That's where the issue was. Similar people, but not governed together. And it is that lack of being governed together that caused this aberration that these are different groups. But they are not. I don't want to, certainly these groups are like if you say Barundi, Banyarwanda, Banyankore, the groups in Tanzania, the Bahaya, Banyambo, Bashin Congo, the Bahema in Bunya, these are just one nation. You could call them actually one nation. One nation, you could actually call them the nation of the Great Lakes, because their dialects are not only Bantu dialects, which are all linked, but you can actually hear what somebody is saying, even without translation. Now, if you can hear somebody's language without translation, that means you are the same people. Now, the second point I made in that lecture was to identify what I called the strategic bottlenecks that Uganda, I was talking about Uganda at that time, but I'm sure even Rwanda has got, you can have some, could be some similarities. I identified those 10 bottlenecks. The first one is this one I've been talking about, and I called it ideological disorientation. People are ideologically disoriented. They put on wrong spectacles. They therefore cannot see things properly. I've just mentioned one aspect, saying that Africa is full of so many tribes, they are always fighting each other. But I can add another one, another illustration. In Uganda, I am a Mnyankore. I belong to that subgroup. But what is my real interest as an individual? Forget about talking about even a group. What do I need? Me as Museveni, forget about my neighbors or what, just me as an individual. What I need is prosperity, to live a nice life. If I need prosperity, how will my Banyankore help me? The Banyankore produce milk. They are all cattle keepers like me. I produce milk, they produce milk. I produce bananas, they produce bananas. I produce beef, they produce beef. They can't buy from me, I can't buy from them. Because we are producing similar products. So if you are to work, those Banyankore, in the area, you say you stay there as Banyankore, we don't have poverty. We have cows, all right, we have land, but there is no complementarity among us in terms of purchasing. So who are the people who save me in Uganda, who make me prosperous? It's not the Banyankore. It is the people of Kampala. They are the ones who buy my milk. They are the ones who buy my bananas. They are the ones who buy my beef. So I am prosperous because of Uganda, not because of my Banyankore. The Banyankore helped me in only one way, apart from greeting Jagandi or religion. They helped me in only one way. They produce milk, I produce milk. They produce bananas, I produce bananas. So we are able to generate big quantities, volumes, which make marketing easier, and also processing. That's how they help me. But beyond that, my real saviors, why I am a prosperous person, is Uganda. The Ugandans of Kampala, they are the ones who make me prosperous because they buy what I produce. And the people of Uganda are not enough. If you go here in Kigali, you think you are in Kisenyi, in Kampala. You find people there speaking Uganda. Okay. If the tribe is important, then what are you Baganda looking for in Kigali? Why don't you stay in Kampala? We have got our neighboring country, South Sudan. South Sudan is a country with good potential, but it's still not yet settled. When you go there, you get problems. Some police have done this, some arrests, some this, but the Ugandans still go. So what is the magnet which is putting these people, even when they are arrested, sometimes they even kill, but they still go? So what is this magnet which is putting Ugandans to South Sudan? The magnet is economic opportunity. They are looking for economic opportunity, and they are ready to confront any problems in order to get that opportunity. So this is the scientific analysis of the political economy of Africa. People are looking for opportunity. as individuals, as heads of families. So if that is the case, then where does the idea of sectarianism come from? Whose interests is it serving? When you push sectarianism, for instance, if I was to go among the Banyankore, say, we Banyankore, we Banyankore, we Banyankore, what would I be? Would I be a friend of this Banyankore? Or actually an enemy of the Banyankore? Because if I am interfering with their opportunities by creating a language or a mentality which in the end interferes with their actual interests, then what am I? Am I their friend or their enemy? So I thought I should bring out that to the Ugandans, but I think even other Africans need to think about this. Because you hear so many situations in different places. In Kenya, in where you hear this group, in Nigeria, that people are fighting because of religion. Religion? A Muslim, what is his problem with a Christian? What are their real interests, genuine interests, not distorted interests? I think the African intellectual class should do more analysis to discover the linkages among our people. So, since we got independence, that was strategic bottleneck number one, which really delayed us. We could have moved much faster when Uganda had a crisis. The crisis of 1966, the crisis of this and that, the crisis was due to this ideological disorientation. And that's what we are fighting now. Now, apart from that, now once you have that ideological disorientation, then you have the problem of forming the state. You can't form the state. For instance, we have got situations where you have got a country without a state, without an army. We have some of those situations, like in Somalia, like in even Congo has got more or less the same problem. You have got a country without a state, or a weak state. A state means organized authority over a territory, because the country is land. But you must have organized authority over that land. And organized authority means army, means the police, means the judiciary, means civil service. That is what creates the state. Why is it difficult to form a state over Somalia or whichever country you're talking about? Partly because of this ideological disorientation. Because if you don't see Uganda as Uganda, and you are only talking about Banyankore, Baganda, Muslims, Christians, how will you form the state? How will you get the cadres, the priests? Because you cannot have a religion without priests. You cannot have a pope with just followers. The pope must have cadres. And the cadres are the bishop, the archbishop, the cardinal, these other smaller pharaohs, what do you call them? The priests. That's how you have a religion. But if you have got only the Pope and then only the Catholics and no other people in the middle, then you cannot have a religion. Now that's part of the problem why you cannot form a state. If you don't have cadres with an ideology which looks at the usefulness, because what I was telling you about this Banyankole, how the Banyankole must appreciate Uganda and know that Uganda is more important for them than they themselves talking about Banyankole. Then if your people can't see that, you don't have cadres who can see that, you cannot be able to form a state. It will be very difficult. You cannot build an army. Because an army is a very dangerous enterprise. Somebody to know that there is a machine gun there and still more advanced towards the machine gun. That is very serious undertaking. But can you do that if you don't have conviction? If you don't have an outlook which tells you that although you like life, but you must assault that machine gun because there is something more important than life. How will you build an army if you don't have that outlook? So that is the second bottleneck. Ideological disorientation leads you to inability to form a state. Because you are disoriented ideologically, then it leads to other problems. Then another weakness which we faced at independence and which other countries faced in different ways, which I would call bottleneck number 3, is attacking the private sector. In some parts of, in Uganda for instance, our leaders did not appreciate the private sector. That's how they attacked the Indians. You hear in Uganda they are saying, factory yomuyindi. Factory yomuyindi. An Indian factory. How can you have an Indian factory in Uganda? Indian factories are in India. Any factory in Uganda is a Ugandan factory. Whether it is owned by a Muhindi, whether it is owned by a Goan, whether it is owned by a Rwanda or a Ugandan. But because people do not understand the concept of GDP, there is that measurement called GDP, gross domestic product. That means the value of all the production in our country. So if a factory is in Uganda, it is a Ugandan factory. Yes, it may be owned by an Indian, but that Indian is really an agent of ours. But people do not understand this. And that's how Africa lagged behind to some extent, behind South Korea, behind all these little countries which have come up, gone ahead of us. Why should South Korea be richer than Uganda or Tanzania or Kenya? There's no reason. But there was these were some of the problems. So the battle I've been having in Uganda is to tell those Ugandans that there are two concepts. There is gross domestic product and gross national product, GNP. GNP means the wealth of the citizens of Uganda, for instance, or of Rwanda. GDP means the wealth of everybody who has invested in Rwanda or Uganda. If you look at a country like China, People's Republic, I think their GDP is now like $7 trillion. But the GNP, the wealth of the Chinese, is like, I think 5 trillion or something like that. So the wealth of the Chinese themselves is smaller than the wealth of China, whether by foreigners or Chinese. And that's how China has become a big power. They used their own resources, but also used the resources of the outsiders who came to invest in China. So the failure to understand this was part of the bottlenecks which I pointed out. Number 4, an undeveloped human resource. When I was listening to these young children here who were reciting poems for us, I can see that Rwanda is developing its human resource in a good way. And that's what we need to do in the whole of Africa. That's why in Uganda we have introduced universal primary education, universal secondary education, with a population which is educated, skilled, healthy. The sky is the limit. We shall not fail. Then it must be number 4. Number 5, inadequate infrastructure. Inadequate infrastructure. Like, for instance, the railway. When you transport a good from Mombasa to Kampala by road, you pay something like $4,000 per container. They call them containers. If you transport the same container on the railway, you pay $3,000. So road transport is about 30% more expensive than road transport. That's on the side of the railway, of transport. But there's the problem of electricity. In Uganda, we had big problems with the electricity because at one time, we were told by some experts that we were in danger of having too much electricity. Yes, this is not a story. People say that being in government for a long time is a bad thing, but actually it's a good thing. Because I've been able to see all of this and learn. And now nobody can move me. We wanted to build 2 dams, Bujagali and another one called Kalagara. But people who are discussing with us said, no, this is you have too much electricity. Really? It's too much. You should not do simultaneous investment in the dams. You should do sequencing. I remember the words. But how can we have too much electricity? Because when we went for the Rio conference on the environment, I inquired how much wood was being destroyed in Uganda as firewood. At that time they told me that we were destroying 28 billion cubic meters of wood per annum as firewood. We are now destroying 40 billion cubic meters of wood. And if you convert that into electricity, you need at least 10,000 megawatts to stop people cutting trees for firewood, and they use electricity instead. So how can you talk of too much electricity? But that was the story. I've told you before, some of the audiences, this measurement we call kilowatt hour per capita. The amount of electricity per person. If you go and you look on the internet, you'll find that the United States has got something like 14,000 kilowatt hour per capita, while some of the African countries have got as low as 12 kilowatt hour per capita. And that has been part of the problem. You cannot develop unless you solve the problem of electricity. I'm glad we are now cooperating in the East African community. Recently I was in Russia. I will send you, Secretary General, I will send you the letter which I gave to Mr. Putin. I was talking about Uganda issues, but I also talked about East Africa. So I said you must, here is the master plan for the roads, for the railway, what can Russia do? And I intend to continue promoting that. So at least we are working on this, we are moving well. We are now more coordinated. Then, bottleneck number 6, a small internal market. This is linked with the other point which I made at the beginning. If I produce, who will buy what I produce? Because if I produce and nobody buys, I cannot continue to produce or buy small quantities. On this one, we are moving well. We have got the East African community. We have got the COMESA. We are working on the common market of Africa. We are moving well. But I need to repeat this because it's very, very important. Because when you go into these meetings, you hear people talking about small things, about at one time, one of the member states of East Africa could not pay membership fee because they had some internal problems. And somebody will say, how is the kulipa ada? Is it ada? Is it some contribution? But this is not the most important thing. The most important thing about a common market is buying what we produce. So I'm glad this one is getting out of the way, but I appeal to the intellectuals to talk more about market. Without market, we cannot modernize these economies. Then, lack of industrialization. That has also been another problem. We have talked about this quite a lot. Selling and processed coffee, I've been giving you that example. Uganda they say European countries are aiding Africa, but in fact it is Africa which is aiding Europe. Because I have been giving the example of coffee. When you sell unprocessed coffee, you get $1. When that coffee is processed, you get $14 for the same amount of coffee. So Uganda has been helping UK and other developed countries for the last 100 years with about $10 per kilogram of coffee which we export. But I think we should stop being donors. Now, the other time when I came here, I was very happy. I found that the Rwanda government had built an industry of milk called Inyanji milk. I was very happy. That's the way to go. That is the way to go, so that we stop being donors and we develop our countries. The services sector being underdeveloped, like here, this hotel, this is wonderful. This is an export item because when tourists come and stay here, they bring money. So developing the services sector, that has been one of the bottlenecks. Agriculture, which is not developed, that was another bottleneck. I have the document here I will give it to your people to print out more copies. Now, finally, lack of democracy. That one was also a problem, but this is being addressed in many of the African countries. So when they asked me to give a keynote address, I thought I should mention these points. When the RPF took over Rwanda, Rwanda came back to the Great Lakes region. Because before that, Rwanda belonged to Brussels. Well, I will give you an example. Do you know, I was born at a place called Ntungamo, which is only 14 miles from the Rwanda border on the Ugandan side. I grew up there, so everything I was watching. There was not a single bus from Uganda to Rwanda, a passenger bus. No passenger bus. I don't think there were even taxis. From Uganda to Rwanda until RPF came into government. There was not a single passenger bus to Goma in Congo. Never. I never saw it. I grew up here. I never saw a passenger bus. A passenger bus to Goma, to Butembo in Congo, to Beni. Never. Yes, there were some lorries which used to pass, but no passenger vehicles. Of course, the one which were still smuggling. You think this smuggling is recent, but I know that the smuggling was going on even that time. And corruption was transnational. How do I know this? My father, who is a peasant, a traditional man, because of the inadequate veterinary services, he had become a veterinary doctor. Treating his own cows. And what was interesting was, this man had, first of all, a ceiling for injecting cows, which he would keep in Orobazi. In Orobazi, those traditional houses, part of the roof, he would put the ceiling there. And he had all the drugs from Uganda, from Rwanda. The drug from Rwanda was called Katuku. I think it was Benor or something like that. The man had it all the time. When the stocks would get finished, he would get a new one. So there was smuggling. Then from Uganda, there was Antricide, Kachuawa. They had given it a Kinyankore name. Then there was Machunda, Prosalt. So there was human contact, but human contact was not officialized. They would just go on foot, they would just go. The contact was there, but not officialized. But when the RPF came to power here, that's when Rwanda rejoined the Great Lakes region. Even Congo now, although they have got a lot of problems, but they are now much more part of the Great Lakes region than before, than during the colonial times. So I would like to salute the RPF comrades, for the sacrifice you made to liberate Rwanda, stop the sectarianism of Rwanda, and also bring Rwanda back to the region. I thank you very much.